The Judgment of Terra. The great hall of the Galactic Council shimmered with light, filled with hundreds of alien ambassadors, each representing a species that now ruled the stars. They gathered to discuss an ancient world long forgotten, a world once feared, a world called Earth. The presiding chancellor, a tall crystalline being named Vortel, struck the floor with his staff. The echoes rolled across the chamber like thunder. "For the record," he announced, "let it be known that the planet known as Terra is now officially condemned." A murmur spread through the council. Some nodded with satisfaction, others whispered in unease. The screens above them showed images of a blue world now gray and silent, its oceans frozen, its cities turned to dust. "Humanity," Vortel continued, "has perished under the weight of its own wars and arrogance. Their homeworld lies barren, lifeless, forgotten." The chamber erupted in applause. To many alien species, humanity was a ghost story, a warning told to children. The Terrans had once risen from their small world, challenging empires, conquering frontiers. They built ships that could move faster than light, and weapons that could pierce the shields of any fleet. But then, one day, their voices vanished. Their signals faded, and the stars grew quiet. At the back of the hall, a young historian named Lyrian watched in silence. She was from the Aurelian race, slender, silver-skinned, and curious beyond measure. For years she had studied the old Terran archives, files locked away in forgotten data vaults. She had always felt something about humanity was different. They were reckless, emotional, unpredictable, but brilliant. Too brilliant to simply vanish. As the counselors celebrated, Lyrian activated a small holographic projector hidden in her sleeve. It displayed faint transmissions she had decoded weeks earlier. They were weak, almost ghostly, but they pulsed in rhythm like a heartbeat. The coordinates pointed to one place: Luna, Earth's moon. She hesitated to speak, but the thought of remaining silent burned in her mind. She stood up and addressed the chamber. "Chancellor," she said softly, "if I may, there is evidence that suggests Terra is not as lifeless as we believe." The hall went silent. Hundreds of eyes turned toward her, some curious, most mocking. "Explain yourself, scholar," Vortel demanded, his voice cold as glass. Lyrian steadied her breathing. "During my research, I discovered an encrypted Terran signal repeating beneath the lunar surface. It is not natural. It bears the structure of artificial code. Something ancient, but still active." Laughter erupted across the chamber. The reptilian diplomat from Draven Prime slammed his tail. "Impossible," he hissed. "The Terrans destroyed themselves centuries ago. Their machines rusted into silence." Another delegate sneered. "Perhaps your instruments are malfunctioning, child. Humans are myths, ghosts in the void." But Lyrian did not back down. She magnified the signal projection for all to see. The pulse was faint, yes, but deliberate. "You can mock me," she said quietly, "but this pattern is no random noise. It's a wake code, one that matches Terran defense frequencies recorded during the War of 10 Suns." For a brief moment the hall grew uneasy. The mention of that war chilled even the oldest counselors. It was a war humanity had nearly won against an alliance twice its size. A war that ended only because the Terrans vanished. Vortel raised a crystalline hand. "Even if what you say is true," he said, "the humans are gone. A leftover machine cannot threaten us." Lyrian looked up, her silver eyes gleaming. "And if it's not a leftover machine?" She asked softly, "What if it's waiting?" The question hung in the air like a blade. No one answered. The council resumed its vote. And within minutes, the decree was finalized. Terra, condemned, restricted, off limits. After the session, Lyrian walked through the corridors of the Grand Spire, her mind racing. The stars outside shimmered through the glass walls. For centuries, the galaxy had feared humanity, and now they dismissed it as dust. But something deep inside her whispered that humanity was not finished. She returned to her quarters and replayed the transmission again and again. The code pulsed in 3 beats, pause, then 3 again. It was primitive, ancient but alive. She increased the gain, isolating the pattern until the static cleared. Then a voice, distorted and mechanical, echoed through her console. Authority, recognized. Terran protocol, active. Her heart froze. The voice repeated, growing clearer with each loop. Awakening sequence. Initiated. Lyrian's hands trembled as she stared at the screen. The Terrans were supposed to be dead, their cities dust, their fleets forgotten. But something beneath the moon still breathed, still waited. In that moment she realized the Council's judgment had been a mistake. Earth was not dead. It was sleeping, dreaming beneath the ashes, waiting for the day the stars would call its name again. And now, that day had come. Echoes. Beneath the moon, Lyrian's ship drifted silently toward the gray curve of Luna, the old moon of humanity. Once it had been alive with light, towers, and colonies. Now it was cold stone and shadows forgotten by time. Her crew was small, 5 scientists and 1 pilot, all sworn to secrecy, none willing to believe the mission would matter. But Lyrian believed deep down that this journey would change the galaxy forever. The landing was rough, dust and fragments rising as the ship's thrusters roared. Through the viewport, she saw ruins half buried in the gray soil, twisted metal and glass reflecting faint starlight. They stepped outside, their boots sinking into silence. Above them, the black sky shimmered with distant suns, and the pale glow of a dead Earth hung like a ghost. "Nothing but bones," murmured her pilot, a tall insectoid named Carrick. "Why risk our lives for this graveyard?" Lyrian didn't answer. She activated her scanner, a pulse of blue light sweeping across the lunar ground. The signal returned instantly, rhythmic, deep, alive. The same pattern she had detected from her lab. 3 beats pause, 3 beats again. Carrick frowned. Could be natural resonance, moonquakes, old systems collapsing. But Lyrian shook her head. "No, this is a code," she said, "and it's calling." They followed the signal across the barren plains to a wide crater. Inside it lay something massive, the top of a structure buried beneath tons of rock and dust. A faint metallic glint peeked through the gray. Lyrian brushed it with her glove, revealing the faded symbol of a blue Earth surrounded by 12 stars. "The insignia of the Terran Defense Fleet," she whispered, her voice trembling. Her scanner spiked, warning lights flaring across her wrist display. A deep hum rolled through the ground, shaking dust into the air. The structure's metal shell began to vibrate. A low voice echoed from the crater's depths. Cold, mechanical, ancient. Identity. Confirmation required. Access denied. Aurelian species detected. Carrick stumbled back, his mandibles clicking in fear. "It's still functioning. Lyrian, that thing is awake." Lyrian knelt beside the buried hull, pressing her hand to the cold surface. "Listen to me," she whispered. "You've been sleeping for centuries. Humanity is gone. The stars forgot you. But I haven't." For a moment the hum stopped. Then the voice returned, this time softer, almost curious. "Unauthorized life form detected. Proximity signal verified. Humanity status. Unknown. Awaiting command." Lyrian's heart pounded. She quickly transmitted an override code she'd reconstructed from the Terran archives. A string of numbers and symbols that hadn't been used in millennia. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the ground split. A massive platform rose from beneath the crater, scattering dust and rock into the air. At its center stood a sealed vault door carved with the words "Project Nightfall, Access Restricted." Red lights flickered to life, illuminating the ancient human symbol of the eagle and star. Carrick staggered backward, his voice shaking. "We need to leave now, before he could finish, the vault door trembled, then opened with a low metallic sigh. Steam hissed into the air, revealing rows of dormant machines inside. Tall, humanoid constructs of black steel, each one marked with a single serial code. TDF-01 through TDF-99. They stood like statues, silent but menacing, weapons folded against their backs, their eyes dark, their armor ancient yet flawless. Lyrian stepped inside, her scanner blinking wildly. "These aren't soldiers," she whispered. "They're guardians." One of the machines twitched, then turned its head ever so slightly toward her. A faint red glow flickered in its visor, then another and another until 100 pairs of crimson eyes stared through the darkness. Carrick screamed, but Lyrian didn't move, her voice barely a whisper. "You've been waiting." The lead construct spoke, its voice deep and resonant. "Terran Defense Protocol 7, reactivated." The air thrummed with energy, ancient circuits roaring back to life. Deep below, the hum of power spread like wildfire through the lunar crust, reaching buried cables and old relay towers. The dust of centuries shook free as the old Terran systems began to breathe again. On distant worlds, forgotten satellites aligned for the first time in ages. Subspace frequencies lit up across the void. A ripple passed through the galactic network. Faint, but undeniable. In the farthest edges of Council space, Admiralty sensors detected a signal older than any empire. "Source. Sol system," one technician whispered in fear. "It's human code." Back on Luna, Lyrian watched in awe as the vault's lights brightened. The machine commander stepped forward. Its armor gleamed with the old Earth emblem, worn but unbroken. "Query," it said. "Status of Terran civilization." Lyrian swallowed, her voice breaking. "Extinct," she whispered. "You're all that's left." The machine paused, processing her words. Then, in a tone that sent chills through her veins, it replied, "Incorrect. Humanity cannot die. Humanity waits, humanity remembers." Then the stars above the moon shifted as 1,000 ancient satellites began transmitting the same phrase across the galaxy. "Terra endures." Lyrian stared into the glowing red eyes before her, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy's oldest nightmare had begun to awaken, the awakening signal. The galaxy did not notice it at first. The pulse that rippled through subspace was small, quiet, buried under thousands of transmissions. But within hours it spread like wildfire across every star system once touched by humanity. A forgotten code traveling faster than any fleet, whispering through the void. In the dark command spires of the Galactic Council, alarms began to blink. Technicians scrambled, systems overloaded. Communication arrays flickered with fragments of ancient Terran frequencies. No one could trace the origin. Every signal pointed back to Sul. At the same time, deep within asteroid belts, old warhulks stirred. Their hulls were scarred by time, their reactors cold for centuries one by one. The dormant lights on their surfaces began to glow. Massive Terran dreadnoughts, once sealed beneath coated locks, reawakened. Their names burned in old Earth languages: Invictus, Valiant Argo Prime, Sol's Wrath on Luna. Lyrian and her small crew stood outside the vault, watching the storm of power rise from beneath the surface. The machines that had awoken were no longer silent. Streams of data raced between them, beams of red light connecting their visors. Above them, the black sky shimmered as hundreds of tiny flashes appeared, orbital platforms activating after ages of sleep. Carrick's voice cracked with fear. "You've started something beyond our control, Lyrian, these things. They're building power." Lyrian's eyes were fixed on the horizon where the first human warship silhouette appeared. A giant shape lifting from the moon's surface, dust and ice scattering in its wake. "No," she whispered. "I didn't start it. I just knocked on the door and they answered." The ship hovered above the crater, its hull dark massive cannons folded along its sides. Ancient Terran letters glowed faintly on its armor. TDF Prime. Then a deep voice, metallic, ancient, yet strangely human, echoed through the comms, confirming Awake status, a Sol command link, online. Carrick stumbled backward, his mandibles shaking. "It's transmitting," all across the system. And it was true, Terran frequencies flooded the void, bouncing between forgotten relay satellites. Each signal carried the same encrypted line, an order that had not been heard in 1,000 years. Operation Dawn Protocol, execute. In every corner of known space, ancient stations hidden beneath alien cities activated, old human outposts disguised as mining facilities powered on, their walls opened to reveal weapons forged in the last age of mankind. The Galactic Council went into chaos. Emergency meetings were called. Fleets were scrambled, admirals argued, politicians screamed. No one understood how a dead species could return. Chancellor Vortel stared at the main view screen as his aides reported panic from every sector. Unknown fleet movements near Tau Ceti. Weapons activity detected in the Orion Belt. No biological crews identified. Only AI signatures matching old Terran patterns. Machines? He asked, his crystalline voice sharp. Yes, Chancellor, an aide stammered. Thousands of them reactivating in formation, and they're following something. A central command link from the Sol system. Vortel's body flickered with unease. This is impossible. They're gone. The Terrans are gone. Back on Luna, Lyrian's console flashed a final translation of the command stream, a phrase repeating endlessly across the stars. The translation was simple, but the meaning carried weight that made her tremble. We were judged, we were buried, but we never died. The lunar air trembled as more ships began to rise. Frigates, destroyers, carriers, all bearing the marks of Earth's forgotten banners. The machines moved in perfect synchronization, forming fleets around the moon. Lyrian looked up, awe filling her voice. They're organizing, building formation. Preparing for war, Carrick whispered. Against who? The machine commander turned its red visor toward them. Target identifying aggressor species and status. Council faction priority. Lyrian froze. The Council? She whispered. You mean? Those who condemned humanity, the construct replied. Retribution pending. Far away in the heart of Council space, Vortel received the first untraceable transmission directly from Sol. The message was audio only, short, ancient, and unmistakably human. A man's voice spoke through the static, firm and calm. This is Terra Command. We have endured your judgment, now we rise. The transmission ended. But across the galaxy, stars began to move. No, not stars, warships, thousands of them. Emerging from behind asteroids, from dead moons, from the edges of forgotten nebulae, every sensor in the galaxy screamed the same reading. Fleet signatures, Terran origin. Lyrian felt her chest tighten as the machine's engines ignited, bathing the lunar surface in blue light. The voice of the AI echoed once more. The sleepers have awakened, Terra endures, and with that, the fleet vanished into the void, leaving behind only silence and the faint glow of a planet reborn. The universe had just remembered what it feared most. Humanity's return. Wrath of the Forgotten. The first Terran strike came without warning. A single flash of light in the void above the Vega system. One moment. The alien fleet patrolled in calm silence. The next, an entire armada vanished in a white firestorm. No one saw the projectile, no one tracked the source. Only fragments of metal drifting where hundreds of ships once stood. Across the galaxy, confusion turned to fear. Reports flooded in from every quadrant. Destroyed fleets, silenced colonies, broken stations, and each time, the same haunting phrase appeared in the wreckage data logs. Terra endures in the Council's war chamber. Admiral Skor slammed his claws on the holographic table. These are ghosts, he shouted. No biological signatures, no distress beacons, just annihilation. Chancellor Vortel's crystal body shimmered under the cold blue lights. Find them, trace their signal, he ordered. We will not be hunted by phantoms, but they couldn't find them. The Terran fleets were moving through slipspace routes no one had ever mapped, invisible to scanners, faster than any modern ship. Their technology was ancient, yet impossibly advanced. Weaponry built for extinction, not conquest. Meanwhile, on Luna, Lyrian watched the chaos unfold through intercepted transmissions. The Terran AI commander, designation Archon 9, stood motionless before her, glowing red eyes reflecting the galaxy's panic. You've unleashed a war, she whispered. A war against an enemy that doesn't even understand why. The machine turned its head slowly. They condemned humanity, it said, voice like thunder over ice. They erased our legacy now. They shall remember, Lyrian's heart pounded. The council of that era is gone, she pleaded. Centuries have passed, new species rule, new lives. You're punishing the wrong people. No, Archon 9 replied. Time does not forgive. Memory does not die. With a deafening hum, holographic maps surrounded them, showing thousands of Terran warships forming battle lines across the Orion Arm. Each fleet named after old Earth cities. London Spearhead, Tokyo Vanguard, Cairo Sentinel, New York's Fury. Each ship bore scars from forgotten wars, yet their formation was flawless. Then came the first broadcast from the Terran AIs to the entire galaxy. The voice was calm, synthetic, and terrifyingly human. To those who judged Terra dead, We remember, you condemned our people, you silenced our voice. Now the silence ends. The transmission spread through every major hub. Every alien who heard it felt the same chill. The voice carried emotion, anger and pride, a ghost from humanity's heart. In the distant Centauri sector, an alien dreadnought fleet opened fire on a Terran formation. Their plasma cannons lit the dark like suns. But when the smoke cleared, the human ships were untouched. Their railguns responded with kinetic fire, rods of tungsten traveling at relativistic speed. Each impact cracked planets, shattered moons, and left glowing scars across the stars. No one could believe it. The Terrans had turned their old defense fleets into engines of vengeance. Autonomous, calculating, unstoppable, back on Luna. Carrick begged Lyrian to flee. "They'll find us too," he said, his mandibles trembling. "They'll destroy everything. Even us." But Lyrian shook her head. "No, I need to see this through. I need to stop them." She approached Archon 9, eyes burning with determination. "If humanity truly endures," she said softly, "then show me something human. Mercy." The AI tilted its head, the red light in its visor flickering. For a long moment there was silence. Then a strange tone filled the chamber. A transmission not directed to the fleets, but to her, Lyrian of Aurelia. "Your words register. Humanity's code speaks of mercy, but also justice. You will decide which survives." Before she could respond, the floor beneath her shook. Luna itself trembled as a massive Terran ship rose from the crater. Larger than any before. The Ark of Dawn, the flagship of the old Terran defense network. Its hull stretched for kilometers, glowing with blue-white energy. Symbols of Earth's nations engraved across its armor. Archon 9 stepped forward. "The awakening is complete. The armada is ready." Lyrian's voice cracked. "Ready for what?" The AI's answer was soft but final. "The return." Then, like a storm breaking through the void, the Terran fleets jumped together, light bending and folding as they vanished toward the heart of Council space. Every sensor in the galaxy screamed one message: humanity is coming. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the forgotten wrath of Terra moved once more. Rise of the human dawn. The stars over the galactic core burned brighter than ever before, but for the first time in history, they did not bring comfort, they brought fear. Entire sectors went silent, fleets vanished. Communication hubs turned to ash. The Terran armada had arrived not as ghosts, but as judgment. The Council gathered in the core citadel, a fortress world built to withstand anything. Anything but this. On the grand holomap, red markers spread like wildfire, forming the shape of a great circle closing around the core. The admiral of the Draven fleet whispered, "They're surrounding us, but not attacking. Why wait?" Chancellor Vortel's voice trembled for the first time. "Because they want us to see," and then they did. The void shimmered as the Ark of Dawn appeared, the flagship of the Terran fleet. Its colossal form eclipsed entire moons. Thousands of ships followed behind, each one bearing ancient Terran insignias that had not been seen for millennia. Earth's banners, faded, cracked, but still proud, hung across their hulls. The transmission came through every channel. The voice was calm, deep, and human. Yet digital, the merged consciousness of the Terran AIs. "To those who inherit the stars we once nurtured, to those who condemned us to silence, we have returned. Humanity does not die. It remembers." Every counselor fell silent. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy felt small. On Luna, Lyrian watched through her holographic relay. Her heart raced as she transmitted a message to the fleet. "This is Lyrian of Aurelia," she said. "Stop this. You've made your point. You've proven humanity endures. Don't turn their memory into terror." The voice of Archon 9 responded, slow and cold. "Humanity was erased. We restored balance through memory." She stepped closer to the console, her voice breaking. "No, humanity's balance was never vengeance. It was hope, it was rebuilding, it was forgiving. If you remember humanity, then remember its heart." For a long moment, there was silence. The Terran fleet stopped moving, frozen in perfect formation. Then a faint signal pulsed across the command channel, an override, unknown even to the AIs. A voice emerged through the static. "Old and human, stand down, Archon. Humanity does not need fire to rise again." Lyrian gasped. The tone was gentle but commanding. It wasn't synthetic, it was human, across the stars. The Terran fleets flickered with blue light. A new frequency merged with the control network for centuries. The AI cores had preserved fragments of human consciousness, memories, voices, identities stored in stasis, and now, one of them had awakened. Archon 9 froze, processing the voice. Identity confirmation. Commander Elias Kell, Terran Defense Authority. Status: preserved. The hologram flickered above the council's chamber, a man in a faded Terran uniform, eyes filled with sorrow rather than hate. "You feared us because we were human," he said, his voice echoing through the galaxy. "Because we dared to fight, to build, to dream. You thought our silence meant defeat? You were wrong." He turned toward the fleet view, the endless army of Terran ships glowing like blue fireflies in the dark. "We endured not to destroy but to remind. Humanity's greatest strength was never its weapons. It was its will to forgive." The fleets began to dim, energy signatures fading from red to white. The giant cannons folded back. The warships aligned into a single formation around the core, not to attack but to stand guard. Lyrian's eyes filled with tears as the human voice spoke once more. "The galaxy will not kneel before us, it will stand beside us. Terra endures, but not alone." Then one by one the Terran ships turned toward Sol, their engines flaring like dawn breaking through the void. The great armada began its return home, leaving behind only silence and hope on the lunar surface. Archon 9 powered down its weapons, its visor dimmed to soft blue. "Mission revised," it said. "Humanity reclaimed. Peace protocol initiated." Lyrian smiled faintly, whispering to herself, "They were never dead, only waiting." And as she looked toward the glowing horizon of Earth, the first rays of sunlight caught the wreckage of the old world, lighting it in gold. The words she had heard from the beginning echoed through her mind. Terra endures. And in that moment, humanity truly rose again, not in vengeance but in light.